A Dormant Evil, Chapter 2. Fluorescent lights buzzing. People mumbling concerned over his head. The beeping of machines echoed through his head, but he couldn't focus on any of it. She wouldn't allow him to, even if he wanted to. This is his fate now, pinned under her thumb, but he wouldn't be like this forever. He would make sure of it. Lou walked down the hospital hall, narrowly avoiding the nurses and doctors that ran through helping patients. The nurse guiding him didn't say anything as she led him deeper and deeper down the hall, with the two stopping in front of a dimly lit hospital room. The door was ajar, but Lou could see that the mantel was old and rusted, like the entire room hadn't been used for years. "I would wear a mask if I were you, detective. The man is a sight to behold for sure," the nurse said as Lou walked in, pushing the nurse's concern to the back of his mind. As soon as he walked in, he regretted his decision, as the stench that permeated the room licked and stung at his nose, almost making him vomit. He covered his nose and continued forward, approaching the man, who was lying motionless in the hospital bed, with only the beeping of machines and monitors alluding to his survival. "Goddamn, you're a lucky son of a gun, that's for sure," Lou whispered to himself, studying the man and taking notes in his notepad. Now that the man was bathed in the lights of the room, Lou could see that he was barely anything that resembled human, with strange pieces of metal impaled all throughout his body. Across the metal was charred green fabric which withered and fell off in pieces. His arms were gone, replaced by brittle bone and what looked like metal joints. The man's face was the worst, as it was nothing but a melted skull, with strips of flesh clinging to the top of his head, and his eyes were wide open, the pupils dilated and bloodshot. At the very top of the man's ragged skull was two metal pieces jammed in, which Lou almost wanted to call ears, almost like something he would see in a bunny. Lou fought back his disgust and sat down next to the man's hospital bed, wafting the smell of rancid and charred flesh away from his nose. He looked down at the man's hand, or more accurately where his hand was supposed to be, and was surprised to see that the arm joint was moving slowly, like it wanted to get up but was getting held down. "He hasn't spoken since he got here, but we're documenting incredible amount of brain activity with him," the nurse said as she slid into the room behind Lou, startling him out of his thoughts. He wanted to answer, but he was fixated on the man's eyes, which seemed to look right at him and through him at the same time. Whatever that man is experiencing in his dreams, it's just as traumatic as his physical state. "Might have been better if the poor soul just passed on," the nurse whispered under her breath in pity, with Lou tempted to agree with her. He couldn't imagine anyone living like this, in constant agony no matter what you did, even in your head. He felt horrible for the man, but at the same time, something about him sent chills down his spine. He couldn't explain it, but it was like there was a constant aura around the charred man, an aura he could only describe as pure hatred. Lou shook the strange feeling from his body and turned toward the nurse, who looked at him with a forced smile. He returned the expression, but he could tell that she was staring at the man just like him. "When is he going to able to talk?" Lou asked, with the nurse taking out a clipboard from the front of the man's bed. "If we're lucky, he should be strong enough to talk in the next 24 hours. I'll notify you if anything changes. My name's Nika. I'll be the head nurse watching over his status," Nika explained, with Lou shaking his head and writing the young woman's name in his notepad. He took one more glance at the man before exiting the room, walking back down the hallway to the lobby. When he reached it, he sat down in one of the many crusty leather seats and pondered over his notes. How did this man survive his ordeal? What was really going on in the man's scarred mind? Who even was the man? How did he even get in the fire, and why was there a labyrinth under a children's pizzeria? There were mysteries he didn't understand, and he had to understand what was truly happening. He had no idea what these answers would truly mean for him.